Welcome to Proven. My name is Clay, and today I'm going to be talking to you about proven methods of lighting here at Expedition Overland. So let's dive right in. This is a fun one. It's a total gearhead thing. I like lights. I love flashlights. I love headlamps. I love light bars. It's just something fun for me. I'm not saying that you need to go out and buy all of this stuff. We are sponsored by Rigid Lights for years now, and we've been able to tack on a lot of lights to our systems. But hopefully today you'll glean enough information from what does work that you can make an educated decision, purchase, and kind of learn from our mistakes when it comes to lighting systems. So anyway, let's talk about why do you need lighting. Your headlights on your vehicle are sufficient for global travel. Let's be honest. If you want more than that, you can go into a wide range of different lights. LEDs, light emitting diodes, bars. Right now, if you were to go out there and you're going to look at buying a light bar, you're going to see a lot of competition. That's typically good. It drives companies to perform better and build better products against each other. What I'm going to rant on for a second is just to make sure if you got it in you, buy real products. There's a lot of counterfeit stuff out there. There's a lot of Chinese. Well, my light bar is just as bright as that, etc., and it's just as good. Maybe, but it's probably ripped off from engineers and people that have really put their time and money into building these light bars. And I'm just going to say, try to buy from reputable companies. It's good for the industry. It's good for America and global economies. And it's good for you too, because you're going to get better products. We have always run Rigid. We've been sponsored by Rigid for many years. And like Rigid and other companies, they run really good components inside of their LED light bars. That goes beyond just the electronics. We're talking about the powder coating, the lenses, how good they are. They don't cloud over time or get cloudy. They have a lot of good UV resistance. And then the devil's in the details when it comes to the electronics. There's really good LEDs out there, and there's really cheap LEDs out there. Cheap LEDs can still be very bright, but they may not last as long. They might have intermittent problems, and they draw a lot of power. The high-end light bars, you will see, go read the specs, draw significantly less power to produce the same amount of light. Now, if you're already working through power management systems in your vehicles, like refrigerators and other stuff, that power management becomes a big deal. Even with the top of the line bars like we've been running with Expedition Overland, there have been times and nights on the trail when we've been running a lot of stuff that we have decided to shut lights off to compensate for the power loss, so to make sure that our other systems like camera systems, etc., still get their power. They still do draw. If I was to look at the different types of lighting around vehicles, I would say that you have your driving lights, and that can be a whole bunch of stuff. It might just be one front bumper 20-inch light bar, or it could be a wider range of all kinds of driving lights to look forward on a race truck. Driving indicates the lights used for driving. Next would be utility. We use several different lights for utility, including like rock lights for basic functions around the vehicle. We usually put an A-series light like this under the hoods because Toyotas don't come with under the hood lights. That's for utility purposes. And when you get into the LED stuff, they're really great. They're small, easy to install, don't draw much power and put out a ton of light. And it could eliminate the use of having to have a headlamp, which is really nice when you find yourself in a pinch that you can turn a light on somewhere and not have to have headlamps. Next would be camp lights. And camp lights are just what it sounds like. They're lights put in places to make camp life better. Interior lights in tents or campers, area lights to light up the area around you. And I would even consider a rock light a camp light because we use them all the time to illuminate all around the vehicle when we're walking around it. And they're great because the light isn't shining back up in your eyes, and yet you can spill the light on the ground and see what's going on. So let's start with driving lights. In driving lights, you have your headlight, You have an auxiliary lights that you might put on, either halogen, HID, or LED. If you're going to use a light bar, pick whatever light bar you want for the budget and the size of the bumper. I run a 20-inch or 30-inch on my Prospector, and we run a wide range of LED bars across these different trucks. The key thing that I'm going to tell you though is keep your first light low. We all want the light bar up on top, and it looks really cool and it's super fancy and all that, and it makes you feel like a global traveler, but it's not the best place for a light bar for your typical use. The front grille is the best spot, out there and low, and the lower the better. There's been a lot of times when I've had both light bars on vehicles traveling through a wide range of weather conditions, from rain, snow, fog, you name it, and I oftentimes select only the lower bar, because an upper bar up on top, really, unless you have a lot of matting on the hood, or you have the right color of hood, or it's tipped back just far enough so that the roof of the car shades the hood, you get just a ton of kickback from the hood and other dust and particles in the air. I found that top-mounted lights are really great if you're bombing fast down a dirt road and you want to see way out there, or if you're moving really slow on the trail. Here in front of me is the new rigid adapt bar. We call this the light bar to rule them all because it does everything. It has the ability for accent lighting, and then through a GPS function, it can tell how fast you're driving, and it can narrow the beam down and then widen it as you slow up. Fast, slow, it's pretty amazing. Works pretty dang good. And then you can select it however you want. So that's why we call it the light bar to rule them all. Has phenomenally good flooding for trail work, and then it has a really tight long distance beam for moving fast down a trail or dirt road somewhere. But beyond that, our rooftop lights, we do use them for presence in towns or whatever, if we ever need it. We've only done that once. It was worthy of having at that time, but really stick to that lower bar first. From there, sky's the limit. Do whatever you want, but I would say mount them low first. All right, now let's talk about utility lights. For us, we like a lot of light in general, and utility lights are found all over our vehicles. Side lights through using scene. These scene lights from Rigid, they're excellent. I fell in love with them when they first came out because of how they flush mount, the angle that they're at, and they are diffused. Running a diffused light is really nice for area lighting because it eliminates a spot and rings of a circle or rings of light like you've seen in a flashlight. It's just evenly diffused light cast onto the ground, and it's really easy to work on. The best utility lights do the job of lighting whatever you need to work on or see without shining in your eyes. The scene lights are the kind of the middle ground on that. The way they are angled and shaped, they do shine down. If they're low, they're great. If they're high, they can be a sharp thing, but it's worth it for the light. I have this mounted on the side of my ARE topper on my Prospector, and then every single other truck has them on either side. Even when Rigid hasn't sent these lights to us in a package or whatever on a request, we went to a dealer and bought them anyway. That's how much we like them. Under the hood, we put rock lights as a utility light, and we don't use them like rock crawling lights. A lot of people think it's also when I'm crawling over obstacles at night, I'll have these lights. Sure, that is true, but how often are you doing that? A lot of times, even if you have a spotter out in front of you, those lights are so bright that he can't see very well unless they're done just right. So a lot of times you'll end up shutting the light off, and he's using a flashlight underneath the vehicle because that's where the light's coming from his eyes. It's better. Anyway, I digress. We use rock lights as a utility light, and we place we like to run the 6 light kit, 2 up in the front wheel wells where we can look at suspension, turn things on, light up and spill under the ground. And the magic location of a rock light to me in the front wheel wells is that it kicks out just perfectly enough that it fills that area to the front and side of either tire. There's a dark spot right there. And if you are rock crawling or you're stepping out to look at something, you can lean your head out and it lights up the area right there. The next set I always put between the driver door and the rear passenger door right there at that C-pillar, right behind here, right on the bottom. It's right in the center of the vehicle. You can turn the rock lights on, open your door, look at something on the ground, look at something on the road. They're very handy. And then the rear lights we put as far back as possible, and we try to kick them, angle them in a way so that it kicks and spills around the truck. That way, when you're walking around the vehicle, you have an illuminated path 360 degrees around it, and you don't need to wear a headlamp or want to get your headlamp out. You just hit the switch, be able to look around the truck. Other utility lights, we use lights for different stuff. We just installed a couple crazy lights on top of the Tundra for a powered paragliders. We put this massive spotlight on the top and we set it to flash through the S-Pod system so that we can pick out the trucks easily from the air. We look forward to experimenting with that here in the future, but I think it's going to work well. Lighting systems, they're built to work for you, and think through what you need. Start small and work your way up, prioritize, and eventually you'll have the lighting system that you dreamed of. It just takes time. On preparing for lighting and accessories, don't forget to look into products like S-Pod, 4x4, or Switch Pros, etc. We've always used S-Pod for years now. John and Cindy are good friends of ours, and they build a great product, and that product allows us to use between 6 to 8 different switches with a single line brought into the cab, either through rocker switches, an LCD panel, and manage all of the auxiliary lighting through one smart device. Devices like that allow you to just manage a lot of power for a lot of different accessories easily and efficiently, especially as it comes into the vehicle. You're eliminating a ton of wires that come into the vehicle, and it creates a very clean spot for all the switches, which in years past, before these things came out, was a big problem. We were always like scratching our head on where to put all these switches. They've solved a pretty big problem. So next would be camp lights. Camp lights are built for your living situation. Interior camp tent lights, galley lights, walkway lights, cabinet lights, all that stuff. A-series, rigid A-series lights are good for that. They can be pretty bright if, you know, there is such thing as too bright of a light. So we have used for years the National Luna power strip lights. This is an older one, but they have the LEDs in there. This one came with a long extension cable. We use them all the time. You'll see them in our Habitat system. Now they have them to the point where you have a touchpad and you can turn it to red or to a low beam white, low, medium, high. Same with the reds throughout the camper, and they work great. And we do still have some on a leash that when the galley comes out, we can pull a light and put it right over the top so you have a dedicated light when you are cooking. Red and amber lights. Consider these when you're building camp lights. In areas that have a lot of bugs, white lights attract a lot of bugs. Red is great for that. It still allows you to operate around camp. It keeps a low profile because the red spectrum doesn't travel far. That's why the military has used them for years. It's a hard light to see at distance, and it doesn't mess with your night adapted vision. So if you're just being in camp and you're hanging out, sit under a red light, the bugs won't bug you as much, and if you turn it off, your eyes are still ready for the darkness that is around you. If I was to put any sort of camp light and utility light on first, which would it be? Let's do this. I would put one on a rear bumper on a pole. We've had that on our original 100 series. They had a Kmart rear bar in the back there with a work light. Just so handy to have them on on a pole that you can turn an angle and put it where you like, especially if you can get it up high. Gets it out of your eyes and spreads the light out better. Next would be rock lights. After that, it would be area lights on the side of a vehicle, like a scene light like this. That's the prioritization that I would take. Camp lights, I would prioritize a light in the tent and a light over the galley. And then everything else you could manage with a headlamp easily, and then you can go from there. But those are the two areas that I would prioritize first. All right, so this all sounds great, but what are the mistakes that we've made? Well, I'm going to tell you now, the mistakes are in the wiring and the mounts. Spend time getting your mounts correct and order the right mount right off the bat. It'll save you money in the long run. I think the power systems, before we had the S-Pods, our wiring was just horrendous, and an engine fire is not a good thing. And it can come from the accessories that we put into them. So make sure that you don't do what we've done in the past and made a rat's nest to either have a guy that knows what he's doing at a shop install it, or really spend your time learning how to do it and keep it clean and keep it professional. That way these things never come back to bite you. So those are our proven methods of lighting and products that we've used for lighting. Please comment below. I'd love to learn from you. Keep it civil. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.